want to make that background very dull or grayscale, etc. So you want to make sure, first things first, I want you to Control J. You always want to make that copy so that you don't have any problems with losing out on your original file, okay? So I want to show you this little guy down here. It looks like a rectangle with a little circle coming out of it, and that is called a layer mask. So you're adding a layer mask into here. And there's a few ways to do that. When I click that button, you'll see this little white box pops right up on layer 1. That little white box, I want to make sure it's clicked and you've got that little highlight around there, like the little white edging. Otherwise, this one is active, and we don't want that one to be active. Basically, what we're doing is it's like we're putting a piece of paper to hide parts of our photograph. But I can add the paper back, I can cut more paper off. I'm not actually cutting up parts of my photograph. Okay, so to do that, there's a few different ways. Probably, I would have to say the most labor-intensive way, but some of you may need that, is to go to a paintbrush. I would choose a hard paintbrush. Make sure you got 100% hardness. I'll explain when you want to change that. And then we'll talk about the brush size in just a minute. You see this one's quite big. I've got black and white, so you want to click right here. You want to make sure you're on the default black and white. If you choose and you have other colors in there like that, you're going to end up, see I'm on a layer mask so you see that it's not adding the color in. You're going to end up with a problem. So you want it to be a pure black and white, okay? So my background is white, and I'm going to flip the black to my paintbrush color. What I'm going to do is I'm going to paint inside of here. I've clicked and it looks like nothing's happening. Okay? But you could really see something is happening there. Alright? So I want to show you basically what that translates into. If I go back to my original picture, and I go to my image adjustments, and I go to my hue and saturation, I recommend doing it what's called destructively. You're going to be destructive to the layer. We're not using these adjustment layers because we want it to happen straight to the picture. Does that make sense? So I'm going to go this way. Again, image, adjustments, hue, saturation. And I'm going to pull that saturation slider down all the way. And you can see very clearly that I have this picture. If I right click here and I disable the layer mask, kind of turning it off for a minute, you can see I changed it into a grayscale. So it's just a black and white picture. Kind of dull looking too. It needs some popping, that's for sure. So I'm going to go back here. I'm going to enable the layer mask again. And you can see right now, I'm going to click on this layer mask and make it active so that as I paint in here, I can actually add on the parts I want to basically peek through. Now this brush is much too large for reaching some of those areas. So what I can do is use my bracket key. The left bracket makes it smaller, right bracket makes it bigger. You can also come over here, but this is, again, a lot more intensive. You have to go up here every time you need to take a brush change. So keep your left hand on the keyboard. Get one finger on the left bracket, one on the right, and have that handy for you to just change your size so you can get into there much more accurately. Okay? So you want to get in there. Now on edges, that's what I was talking about. Potentially, some of you may decide you don't want a super, super hard edge. You need to soften it a little bit, and that's perfectly fine. That'll come into place on things that might, again, have a softer edge, like maybe it's the edge of some hair where you don't want it to be a super hard line like that. Maybe you come up here and you soften that up. You don't. It's not an all or nothing. You can kind of put it halfway, and then you come into there and you can soften that edge. Maybe you feel like it's too harsh of a line. It's a really good thing to do so that you get a little bit more of a gentle translation, okay? So that is one way that you can add, again, that color is going to switch for you, okay? So we've got that background being black and white. I could also come back in here. Notice I clicked back on my flower picture. I can go to my image adjustments and levels, and I could, if I wanted to, I could really deepen that up. And of course, I see exactly what I missed. Let's say, oh man, I love it. I think it's gorgeous. That's perfect. I'm going to go back to my layer mask now, and I'm going to go ahead and fix up those areas. I undid that area. I actually went outside the flower petal there, and I'm glad I did because I want you to see what happens. When I flip my brush color to white, I can come, I'm going to go to a little bit smaller of a brush. I can come back into that and add that part back in. That's what's so great about, you see how that edge is softer and that's really hardened? You may say, love it. You may say, hate it. But the great part is you can flip these colors, and let's say I did that. Oh man, I missed it. I can undo it, or I can flip my color back to black, and I can add that back in. So the layer mask, again, it's temporary, in that I can change it. If I just took that layer and I cut it out, I couldn't change it. Okay? So that's what's really important about a layer mask. A layer mask is a little bit more flexible. It's like drawing on your hand. It'll last for some time until I want to wash it off, as opposed to getting your whole hand tattooed. That's not going to wash off. Okay? So you definitely want to think about, oops, wrong color. I'm going to go ahead and flip to my other color. I can undo that. If I need to, I can undo that. And I remember, I need to paint it in black. No, I need it in white. That's right, I need it in white. I'm going to make that smaller to get in there. And then decide how much like the edge needs to be treated and hardened. And getting up really close is very important. I would say I pretty much like this one a lot more than I do the super hard edge on some of them, just on this picture in particular. Okay, so that is one way. And I'm going to go ahead and take that layer off. I'm going to zoom back out. And I'm going to Control J again, and I want to show you another way. And this is like a second level for anyone who is ready for it. I want you to be encouraged to try it because it could save you a lot of time. And basically that is, again, we're going to go ahead down here, add a layer mask, and you'll see that that has a little chain. They're linked together, which is very important. I'm going to go on to my layer mask. You can use a variety. Like here I could use Quick Select. I know we've used some of these tools before, but if you have the right object against a very plain background, this could make it go really fast. So basically, I could just come in here, kind of drive this around. I'm going to release that click every so often to lock in my selection. My selection is done. Much faster than me using that paintbrush, right? So at this stage in time, I've got a white background, I've got a black, I've got to fill it with black. So I can either be a little bit more, it's not super labor intensive, but I mean technically you could just paint this in with a paintbrush. You could go to the paint bucket and just paint bucket that in. You could go to edit fill, and then you would select black. So you've got all those options. You can see I've got a good selection there. And then again, if I come back to the image and I go ahead and I say image, adjustment, hue saturation. If I desaturate, you can see that nothing happens. Nothing happened because I only desaturated, watch, I only desaturated in the flower. And that is because, see this right here? I have a selection of crawling ants, which means, hey computer, or hey Photoshop, only do it inside of the selection. And I said, oh, silly me. All right, let me enable that one. I'm going to go back here. I'm going to deselect or Control D. Now I'm going to do it again. I'm going to go here. Oh, sorry. Image adjustments, hue saturation. And I'm going to desaturate. At that stage, I have that great grayscale in the background. I can also go here and adjust it if I liked it to be you know, along the darker lines. Maybe I really like that reflective quality. Maybe it makes it pop out a little bit more. You can obviously do those edits before you start because I would still want to edit this as a flower. If I come in there and I edit that original background copy, because that's what it's looking at right here. That's the hole that's cut out of it, like a piece of Swiss cheese where you can see maybe the lettuce underneath. Okay, I can come in there and really enhance those values. and decide when I think it's absolutely right. I can also go over here, and in my other tools, these again should be familiar to you. I could perhaps burn in the middle a little bit. Maybe I just really want to intensify some of those shadows in the center a little bit more. So it went from that to that. Very subtle, but it gave it a little bit more of an appearance that I particularly wanted. Okay? So again, you are learning to make selections. Oh, sorry. You're learning how to make selections, and you're learning how to use a layer mask. You're then learning how to take that layer mask and make adjustments to it. So if I'm on that layer mask, I can use my paintbrush to add in something else and allow me to see through it, if that's what I need. Okay? Or I could say, nope, I think that's awful. I didn't want to do that. I want to get rid of that, so I can paint that back in white. And pretty much that's what you're going to be doing, and that's what you're going to be practicing. So again, use those steps wisely. Make a copy. Control J, make a copy. On that copy, you can then add your layer mask. Click on your layer mask. Use a variety of tools to make a selection on there that will go into black. Again, those tools could be the paintbrush. It could be the quick select tool. Some of you may find using the magic wand might work for you. You're going to go ahead and fill that or paint that in, and then you can make some adjustments. And if it's easier, change your picture first. I know I kind of changed mine partway through, but if it's easier, change this to a black and white so as you're painting, you see immediately what happens. So again, make good sense of it, choose some cool pictures to start working on, and then we'll go to our sports photos.